Welcome back, guys, to Whiskey Adventure. We've got another non-typical quest for you guys today. This is a little bit of there's no sort of reviewing going on. We're actually going to be talking about hunting whiskey and how we go about it. I'm probably the main person that still hunts here. Jeremy's joining us, by the way. Jeremy he mostly does online hunting now since he's a father of two. But, he used to do a lot of store hunting about a year, maybe 2 years ago. So I'm sure he's got plenty of perspective on this kind of stuff. But the first thing we're going to start with is, where should you hunt? A lot of people are always telling you to go to these big guys like K&L and Mission Spirits and stuff like that, because they have a large selection. And their prices are generally decent, right? But the way I go about it is I'm always checking out the small liquor stores, no matter how small they are. Especially what I found is, even if they appear small from the outside, you can find a store that looks small from the outside, but on the inside, really big, surprisingly. And sometimes they have bottles you would not expect them to have. So, in my opinion, check out, just Google liquor stores near me on Google Maps or whatever, GPS you use, and don't pass up on one, because you never know what they're going to have.
True, because I've gone to many different liquor stores and it varies by store. Some stores might have a better bourbon selection, others will have a better Scotch selection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've seen one that has good Japanese selections.
Yeah.
So it depends on which store you're looking at.
Yep, totally. And the next thing is, check the price of every single bottle of whiskey they have. This is something that is going to be, you should probably be checking out the local retailers pretty frequently as well, like Bevmo, Total Wine, if you're in the Midwest, Benny's and stuff like that. That way you can get kind of well acquainted with what the MSRPs or typical retail pricing is for whiskeys. That way when you're going to these smaller stores, you immediately know, hey, is this a good deal, or is this MSRP? Can I get this price elsewhere, or is this over MSRP where there's no reason for me to buy it here? And obviously, if you have a smartphone, I feel like pretty much everyone has a smartphone these days.
Everyone at least under 75 has a smartphone.
You can always just Google the price of something real quick. Usually, if I'm really trying to find like a really quick price, I'll Google the bottle name and then just add Total Wine to it. And typically, Total Wine will have it. If not, then, if it's harder to find, then, that's up to your discretion of how much you think the bottle is worth versus the rarity of the bottle. But you should definitely check the price of every bottle. Typically, what I do find, is, especially in these smaller ones, they might even have, it might even be a museum, where like your first bottle of, what was it, Weller SR that you paid, probably don't want to say on camera how much you paid for that.
Well,
what was that at El Goro's here in Escondido?
Allow me to enlighten you.
Go ahead.
The first bottle of whiskey that I ever purchased after starting, being into whiskey in San Diego, was in fact a Weller Special Reserve. It was at Goro's Liquor, which is in Escondido. Now, back then, I wasn't aware of all the many resources you can utilize to find good prices on whiskey. It was $100 for Weller Special Reserve. Now, I say that with confidence.
Maybe misplaced confidence.
That was the start of mini balls that I had purchased. That was essentially not what it was worth, right? And it's all fueled by FOMO, and essentially, there's herd mentality, and the reality is in San Diego, there is slim pickings unless you, just to be honest with you, you kind of have to be aware of, essentially what the community is talking about, right? So you need to find a group of people, who are talking about whiskey, who explain, what it's worth, at least to them. And the general idea being that over time, you discover, based on your individual palate, is it in fact worth it to you? So there is definitely some trial and error in the beginning, but to me, if you just remember that it's all fun, it's supposed to be a fun thing,
100%.
And
the chase is part of the fun,
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, if you do overspend on a bottle, it's a learning lesson.
And you also gotta make sure the bottle is worth it too. I mean, I've overspent on Weller SR. I spent most on there was $60 for a bottle, but for me, it was a good pick because I enjoyed the bottle. And my dad enjoys the bottle. My dad's not a big whiskey person in general. He's a beer drinker. But he loves Weller SR.
Okay.
So if I can get it for, like I said, $60 on there for me, going, okay, that's not really material in my opinion.
It's hard to find out here.
Yeah, it's hard to find, especially out here. I mean, you can't get the Costco price of $20 every day.
Yeah.
But for me, he enjoys it. Seeing him enjoying it on there, those are priceless memories.
Yep.
So it's worth the $60 at that point.
Yeah. It just kind of depends on what the bottle is worth to you. And obviously, if you haven't had it, you don't know what it's worth to you. But if you spend $60 on a Weller SR and you find out, hey, this isn't worth $60 to me, guess what? You're not going to spend $60 on Weller SR again. So you're spending money on that lesson learned. But moving on to the next point of hunting, something that I do is. I've only ran into a single liquor store, and this was in San Clemente. I've only ran into a single liquor store that did not allow pictures. So the next point is, if you're allowed to, take pictures of the bottles and the price. Every single bottle that you find of either notable price or notable just something that you haven't seen somewhere else, or maybe harder to find, or maybe it's a single barrel, something like that. Take a picture of it. And then after you're done browsing through the liquor store, go out to the front liquor store, take a picture of the sign of the liquor store so you know where it is if you want to go back and find that bottle. Keep that in your phone. I've got an album in my phone called Whiskey Hunting. It's just bottles. It's just pictures of bottles and the stores that are housing them. Sometimes I don't go back for months. And then I eventually go back and grab that bottle because it's still there, Cataloging your hunting is, in my opinion, a really important part of it, because if you're out hunting, you might just be out hunting for fun because you're bored and you ain't got shit else to do. You might as well go see what local liquor stores have, but maybe you don't have the money at the time to spend.
Right. Fortunately,
depending on what area you're in or what your palate is or what you're kind of looking for. Like if you're looking for a Balcones is a lot more unpopular out here in SoCal. So you can be a little bit more confident that the bottle is going to be there in a couple months versus if it's like the Bombers I found I ended up getting it, I think, for like $80 or $90, which I actually let that sit for 2 to 4 weeks before I went back and bought it. I couldn't believe it was still there, but knowing your area, knowing what your area tends to drink, knowing what people go to your liquor store, how popular your liquor store is with the whiskey group or the whiskey, the whiskey community is really important. So that's kind of how you can judge how long you can let a bottle sit before you need to grab it. Which kind of brings up the next point is don't pass on never again deals. If you find a bottle that you're like, there's no way I'm ever going to find this price again, don't even risk it, because if you're never going to find again, you're always going to think about that bottle. It was a couple months ago, I went to my favorite liquor store, and one of the guys there, they were trying to move some bottles, get rid of some older stuff. And so he's like, whatever you're interested, let me know and we might be able to give you a better price on it. And I'm like, well, shit. I mean, if you're going that route, these are these bottles that I've been looking at for literally months. These are bottles I've been looking at and I've been interested in, but I hadn't bought yet because, they're kind of up there in price. They're in the $80 to $100+ range. And, buying those is, can be financially difficult. But, and also, just to say, never spend more than you can afford to spend. Don't be stupid with your money. Don't go crazy into debt or anything like that for bottles that, you can't afford. But, you know, I was like, hey, these are these bottles I want. You know, it was a Blanton's straight from the barrel. Got it in here somewhere. It was a batch-proof Woodford Reserve, the Baumburgers, and the Obtainium. You guys can't see it. It's under the barrel right here, but the 26-year hazmat Obtainium. All 4 of those bottles, I'm like, hey, what's the best price you can give me on these bottles individually? And, you know, he ended up looking up the prices, and then he told me, you know, the best price he can do. I'm like, he gave me prices that I just like, I literally had to sit there. I'm like, damn, he made it hard on me to leave the store without those bottles, you know? And I'm like, well, if I take all of them, can you give me an even better deal? And he did. And I walked in there, I'm not kidding, guys. I walked into that liquor store intending to spend $40 on a bottle, and I ended up spending, I think it was around $400. But the amount of money that I would have normally paid for those 4 bottles I bought would have been around $600. So I actually, he showed me, I got them under his cost. So don't pass on a great deal, because in the end, if it's a bottle you really want to try, if you're getting it for an absolute steal, it's going to be worth it too, you know? You guys got anything to add on to that one? Maybe as far as like rarity goes or something like that?
Well, also, my question is, how much of a relationship do you actually build with the liquor store person?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, that's another important thing is like, especially with this particular liquor store, they're constantly putting out new bottles and stuff like that. So I was checking in once a week, maybe a couple times a week. It was basically on my way home from work. So if it's not too much out of the way, you know, check in every so often. Even if you're not buying something every so often, they're still seeing your face. And actually today when I went in, I ended up picking up a few bottles. I wasn't intending to. Again, it just kind of happens. I just found them. But I'm like, hey, I used to live 10 minutes up the street. I just moved, and now I'm quite a bit further away. Can I leave my name and number with you guys? That way, anytime you guys get a new selection of whiskey, can you just hit me up? Maybe if it's not too much trouble, hit me up and, you know, send me a picture. Tell me what you guys got. If I'm interested in any of them, we could talk price, work things out, and I can come in and check it out. You know, so definitely working out, you know, relationships with your local liquor store is major part of trying to, you know, not only get good deals, but especially the allocated stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. Anything to add, Jeremy, on that note?
So when it comes to allocated whiskey, right, the thing is, when I first started in the whiskey club, with the whiskey community in general, you know, the options, right, oh, go to a bar, try it, right?
Yeah.
And typically bars, the reality is, you know, they're making a profit on their bottle. So to me, I was like, well, I'm not going to find all these strangers who are willing to share these bottles with me, or I'm not going to, but the thing about it is there's a lot of clubs out there. And if you just go and make an introduction to 10 bottle shares, you'll try stuff without having to spend all that money.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, that's why it was so important, right? Now in San Diego, you know, we have a couple groups, you know, San Diego Bourbon, San Diego Scotch and Sharing, right? My little club, you know, San Diego Whiskey Society, you know. So I'm just saying, like in the beginning, those are the places I, you know, kind of leaned on to be able to try and, you know, and not buy, you know. And so it's you just need to. The thing is too is if you show that you're passionate about trying something, even if it's just only allocated, you only want to drink allocated stuff. If you're passionate about it, right? Generally, in this community, for whatever reason, people will pour you some allocated whiskey.
Yeah.
They want to help you save money. Maybe they just want to.
People want to share good stuff, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you're one of those.
So. Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of allocated whiskeys, Stag Juniors, GTS on there. I never had on there.
Yeah.
Nobody's like, I don't know what it is. Thanks to this guy.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I never. I mean, I guess. Well, okay, so the only other person I've tried Found North from besides Jeremy is Bobby. But guess who I know Bobby from? Jeremy. So relationships are not just with liquor stores, but
It's within your own community.
with people in the community, 100%. You can save money that way. Not always are you saving money by getting a bottle for cheaper. You're saving money by not having to buy a bottle you thought maybe you wanted, and turns out you actually don't really like it that much.
Mm-hmm. Something I also learned too, that I wasn't aware of, is that you go to the liquor store, right, and they have a license for this, as they're legally able to do it. They will pour you, or they have old bottles, a barrel picks that you get to try at the liquor.
I have not found a liquor store that does that. So if you can tell me, those liquor stores, I would love to find out. I'm genuinely don't just go and try and get free whiskey. Genuinely go and if you want to really try these, and then if you like it, you're genuinely going to buy a bottle. Do that. Don't just show up and be like, hey, I'm going to try these whiskeys, and this is so good. Thanks for letting me try your really expensive whiskey. See you later. That's how you get blacklisted, and they're not going to be pouring you any free whiskey probably ever again.
This has been talked about till we're dead in the ground, but it's like, don't go into a store because you heard somebody say, hey, there's a bottle there that for an allocated whiskey, right? You come in and you're like, hey, where's that bottle at, right? The stores are under obligation to sell you that bottle or even serve you to begin with.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I've encountered a lot of in this community, where people come in, they hear a tip, maybe from an insider, they demand something, it's not given to them, and then they get mad and make an embarrassment of themselves. It's just, why? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Generally, if you're whatever reason you want to try the bottle, it takes the whole fun out of the whole process, because at that point you're just negativity. You know what I'm saying? And there's so many other ways to try your bottle without having to get it from a store and
Yeah, there is definitely a little bit of a, not so much pay to win, but it's very much like trying to get a job. It's not it's very much who you know, not what you know.
Right.
That's true.
But that was a long point. I didn't think that point would last that long. So let's move on to our last point, and this might be something that you guys might actually not expect. But my last point for hunting is always keep a lookout for your friends. Know what your friends are looking for, and if you see a bottle that they're looking for, regardless of the price, or maybe they'll be like, hey, I'm willing to spend this much on a bottle. I see Baumburgers 2024. I'm willing to pay $120. Well, hey, I just found it for $140. Are you interested? Maybe it's hey, fuck it, let's do it. It's only an extra $20. Mm-hmm. And the best thing you can do is help your friends out. Especially when your friends are always sharing great bottles with you, or you're just having a good time, or just people that you really care about and enjoy the company with. You want to help people out.
It's either that, or if you see the bottle and they're splitting the cost on there, right?
That too.
We just done on there.
Yeah.
We bought a bunch of the high-end
Wicked
on there, and we just split the cost of the bottles on there. He gets a half bottle.
Yeah.
I'm getting half a bottle from it.
That's a great point
It just
too.
makes a whole difference with it all.
Yeah, if you got friends where it's like, hey, we have a mutual interest in this bottle, you want to go halvesies on it? It's honestly, me and Vincent have been doing it. Me and Rowdy did it with the Redbreast PX cask. You're taking a $100 bottle and you're cutting it down to $50. You're getting to try a $100 bottle and you get half of it still. You don't have to go through a whole bottle. If you don't like it, then you only have to go through the half bottle, or you didn't spend the full amount, you only spent the half amount. If you do like it, guess what? You can go buy a full bottle for the full price, and you know that you love it. But at the same time, it's just a much cheaper entry price. And I genuinely wish that a lot more whiskey was available in that $3.75 sizing, just because a whole 750 ml can be a lot. Especially if you buy a bottle and you end up disappointed in it, and that's like, shit, I just spent $100 on 750 milliliters of whiskey that I don't even like. What the hell am I supposed to do with this? Now, if you're me, you might end up blending it, or you might end up barrel aging it, or doing some kind of finish on it, fucking with it,
yeah.
Which I always encourage. If you have whiskey that you don't like, just fuck around with it. Find out what you can do. Try and make it better. And granted, that's not the best way to go about blending, and maybe that's a topic for a different video, but typically when you're blending stuff, you'd like to start with stuff that you actually like, because it's going to be better if you like it. But if you can take something that you don't like and turn it into something that you do like, who's going to say no to that, you know?
Right.
But yeah, you guys got anything else? Anything else to add?
Just remember, when you're starting out in whiskey, utilize, Patreon and Discord, right? I wish I had utilized it far more when I first started, because a lot of these groups that offer those kinds of, those memberships, they're really into it. They're active and they have good palates, and they,
great people too.
Great people. I mean, I'll put a shout out to Chasing Bourbon. They got some good picks out there.
Yeah.
With their stuff on there. I mean, it's only probably on their Patreon right now.
Fry
But
batter.
that fry batter was just
That Old Elk is fucking. That was a damn good bottle. That's for sure. And I talk about SLB and the Discord Patreon community all the time with that, and it's a great community, great people. You get to experience so many different bottles that you might not be able to get to experience, whether you can't find them locally or it's a distillery local to them halfway across the country or something like that. That's definitely a good shout out. Is make friends not just locally, but make friends around the country or even around the world. Might get a little expensive shipping and maybe a little dicey. Anytime you could expand your horizon of friendships and stuff like that, it's only gonna turn out good. Not only just because you're gonna get to try extra, really hard to find or not even possible to find whiskeys, but you're just gonna get meet more excellent people that are interested in the same thing that you're interested in. And you don't have to be in person to enjoy someone's company. I've got people on the SLB Discord where we don't talk all the time, but we talk every so often, and it's like these are really good people, and we share a similar palate, and it's especially when you're into some more uncommon stuff. Like I feel like in San Diego, bourbon and rye are like the predominant whiskeys out here. So if you can find people that are more into like Scotch or Texas whiskey, or more little unconventional whiskeys, I guess you could say, it's just great to be able to share that with other people, and it feels good, being able to connect with people that share the same palate as you and the same appreciation for different stuff.
Just want to follow on there. You be waiting in line for all those allocated drops in there. Don't be a dick.
I don't know if that's related to any recent rumors, but
it's just in general. Area. Don't be a dick. If you're in line there and you don't get anything, that's the thing on there.
This is where I've learned to, like, it really has been reinforced to me countless times and times again that it's a big community, but such a small community.
Yeah, tight knit.
What you do and what you say actually matters.
Yeah,
it's not like you're just. It's not faceless. You could try to be, but chances are you're gonna find somebody maybe at a Total Wine Grand Reserve event. Where you're gonna meet somebody at maybe a tasting at local distillery like 117 or San Diego Distillery. I've ran into people, have heard stories about it, and I meet them and I'm like, okay, like it's a small community, like
yeah.
So
people know, people hear names. Your name is important. 100%.
It really is.
So don't be a dick. Act as you would expect other people to act towards you. At the end of the day, it's just barrel-aged spirit, Yeah, it can be worth some money. Yeah, it can taste really damn good, but it's not worth your name and your reputation and making a fool of yourself. It's not that serious, We're just here to have a good time.
Exactly, good time. Enjoy some good stuff on there. Oh well, if you miss out, there's another time on there if you get it.
Actually, and you know what? That's another one. I only have 5 points on this paper here, but I'm gonna make a 6th point here because of that. And this is primarily because of you, Jeremy. Don't be in a rush to try things. There might be different batches that are excellent, and I've gotta try this batch because it's everyone says it's the best batch in a while.
24D.
Yeah, or some
24
GTS 2022 or something. There's gonna be more whiskey. There's always gonna be more whiskey. Don't feel like you need to overpay for something just because it's a specific batch or anything like that. God forbid, there's definitely been that situation in our local community. God forbid you don't have a lot of time on this earth, and you know that. Then it's totally acceptable. But if you expect to be here for a while, don't rush things. You know, we're going to be here for a while. There's no reason to overspend for something like the Aeneas Coffee High-End Wicked today that we shared.
Yeah.
I think it was the one that we got for $60. I recently saw that in El Cajon a few weeks ago for I think $90 to $100, which is considered a pretty solid deal. And I was like, dang, that's a good deal. I would really like to try it, but maybe I can find a better deal. I can always go back. I'm almost certain it's going to be there. I can always go back if I want to get it. Find it today for $60. So that goes back to point number 4. Don't pass on never again deals. You know, but if it's something where it's like it's $10 to $20 cheaper, maybe hold off a little bit. $10 to $20, that's not going to break the bank.
No, it's not.
Hopefully, if it's going to break the bank, you probably shouldn't be spending too much money on whiskey to begin with. You know, harboring back to the other point, you might be able to try it at a bottle share or something like that, and you might not like it. So, just take your time, enjoy things.
Enjoy
you know,
get your hands
don't
on.
rush into things. Take things as they come. And I think that's all I've got. This would be like a 10-minute video, guys. So if you're still here, we appreciate you guys sticking around. It's been almost a half an hour that we've been talking about this, so we genuinely do appreciate it. Let us know what you guys think about this video down in the comments below. But other than that, we will catch you guys next time.